Yo, we back, Bridgebizness. Let's clap it up, baby. Bridgebizness, man. This is a celebration. Okay,
yes,
we got the one and only 3-time world heavyweight champion of the world. This man has done so much in his career through philanthropy, through charity, through acting. He's done it all, man, from a father to a commentator, and he's faced some of the most ferocious boxers in the heavyweight division. The one and only Lennox Lewis is on Bridgebizness. Horse, yes. Bridgebizness. What up, Lennox?
Welcome.
What's up?
Hey, man, first and foremost, I want to say welcome to Bridgebizness. I'm going to do something to you that I hate when people do to me. I'm gonna take you back. I'm gonna take you back in time. Okay. All right. There was a New Year's Eve in Miami. Okay, that you and I actually spent together.
Oh.
Okay, and we was at, I want to say one of Chris Blackwell's hotels.
Yes.
On the top floor.
Yes.
I don't know if you recollect that because we didn't really talk too much, but the whole time I was fanning out that I was standing next to you. This was somewhere in the early 2000s. And I was also really, really surprised on how down to earth and cool you were, you know? And so I want to say thank you to you because you didn't treat me like a nuisance when I was coming up to you saying, yo, Lennox, just Sway, man, I love what you do, man. So salute to you.
Sway. That was such a long time ago. You have such a great memory. And, you know, he doesn't have that hotel anymore, but I do remember, especially the top floor and everything. That was a great time. And, you know, Chris Blackwell, wonderful man. I also stay at his hotels in Jamaica as well. Have you been to Jamaica yet?
Yes, I stayed at the hotel in St. Mary, I think it is.
Okay, yeah. That's right.
The one that's built into the landscaping because they didn't want to disrupt nature. Has the little lagoon, got the cabins on the lagoon. Yeah, the best, man. Horace, we went to Jamaica. We was going to Chris Blackwell's hotel. Okay. On the way to the hotel, Lennox, you know about this. There was a stand, and they were serving food, and so we pulled off to the side, and they were cooking food like right over a stone oven.
Wow.
And I wanted to get some
jerk chicken.
Jerk chicken, right?
No, I mean I love going to the island, especially, you know, after one of my fights. For some reason, I just love going to the islands to be part of nature. I love green, blue, all the different vibrant colors, and I try and get away from electricity and all that. So that really calms my mind and gets me back in the mood for training.
Nice.
Really? That's why you did it.
Hey,
let me ask you this too, and then we could get into boxing. I remember when you start growing your locks, right? And I know you have Jamaican descent, British descent, and you know, Canadian. Around, I don't know what year, maybe about 94, you start growing your locks.
Right.
I had started growing my locks around 92, 93, right?
Right.
My reason.
Don't worry. Hey, bro, I was watching you.
Oh, word?
Yeah, for real, man. For real. Yep.
Come on, Lennox. Don't make me feel like the champ right now. I didn't know you was watching me like that, man.
Because I was thinking, nobody ever seen your locks. To me, I never seen your locks. You kept them hidden all the time. And I know there's like even some, you know, dreads in Jamaica, some Rastamans that they let their hair, when they let their hair out of their hat, it touches the floor. Yeah, so I was like, yo, nobody's ever seen Sway's hair. I bet it hangs right down to the floor. So I never got to see that. So did it ever hang to the floor, or was it that long?
Yo, Lennox, my locks came down to my ankles, kid.
Wow.
And when I would bring them out, I looked like a lion. You got to understand this. Yeah. Hey, they used to call me Sway Marley.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's a sight, man. It's a great sight. When I see that, I was like, wow, that's some years, that's some history. That's a whole heap of stories, you know what I mean? People don't realize to grow locks, you've gone through, you know, something. You've gone through a history. And that's why when you meet another guy with locks, it's always, you know, it's easy like that because we understand.
Yeah, and I think that's why we got along when we was in Miami. You know what I mean? What was your reason for growing locks? Mine was because my auntie was Rasta, and I was really, at that time, really involved and engaged in the Rasta philosophy way of life. What was your reason?
That's great. You should have spoke on that a lot more, because you know, a lot of people think it's just a hairstyle, but you know, yours is a way of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The eating part and just the philosophy part of it is important for me. That's what it was for me. You know, I remember going to school and there was this band in Kitchener-Waterloo. I forget the name of it right now. But the members were Rasta, and you know, they used to speak to me, and we used to cook and we used to talk, and it was great. And even when I went to Jamaica, I found the same thing. And it's like they were like holy men. You know, they were like the people that are telling you you're eating wrong. And at the end of the day, they were right. You're eating wrong. You need to eat more natural. So even that I brought into my training and my philosophy. So, you know, when I'm going into the ring, chase those crazy ball heads out of town. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the people that are not Rasta. So
yeah, man, that's good to know. Man, Horace, I'm gonna let you jump in.
Hey, Lennox, yes, champ. I never met you in person before, but nice meeting you. My wife met you in 1996. She interviewed you for the Source Sports section, Sports Magazine.
Okay.
And she told me, she said, hey, I got some tickets to Madison Square Garden. It's the heavyweight explosion. I interviewed a guy, Lennox Lewis. He gave me some tickets. I'm a boxing fan. I never been to a professional fight. You was my first professional fight I went to. You fought Ray Mercer. Let me tell you something. Madison Square Garden. Evander Holyfield fought Bobby Ches that night. It was a great event. Let me tell you, it was the first time I was introduced to a real Englishman. The crowd was crazy. I met people from London. They were like, Lennox, kill him, Lennox. And I'm sitting there like, man, the energy that you built up and you brought from London, man. I was like, yo, this guy's going to be great one day, man. And that fight right there was so controversial, man. I just was like, man, I always wanted to ask you, man, was that probably one of the hardest fights of your life right there that you had?
You know, it was a fight I actually knew was going to be a difficult fight because Ray Mercer, he's part of that. He's got that army mentality. So when it comes to training and when it comes to, like, you know, going out for war, that's the mentality, the war mentality. So I know it wasn't going to be no easy fight. I was actually surprised how well he hit me with his jab. He was hitting me with his jab, and I was actually blocking his jab wrong. You know, Emmanuel Stewart, bless his soul, great trainer.
Yes.
He actually told me what I was doing wrong because, you know, for a couple of my fights, I always had like a fat lip. So I hated the fact that I would win the fight, but it wouldn't look like it because I would always have a fat lip, and I hated walking around with a fat lip. So he told me, he said that, you know, I'm blocking the punch wrong. Instead of holding it by the side of my face, I need to put my hand in front of my mouth. So if any spear shot, it just hits the glove. So, you know, just that little adjustment, he helped with me and helped me stop getting fat lips. So.
Hey, speaking of Emmanuel Stewart, rest in peace, was he your first trainer that actually gave you the reason for boxing, not just punching and hitting hard? Did he actually give you the science behind the jab and work behind the jab and made your boxing skills, you know, so superb?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's different parts of helping create and crafting an athlete. So an athlete may have like the physical attributes to help him, but not the mental attributes to really get him over that line. And, you know, for me, it was, I think, a little mental and then a little, you know, sweet science aspect. And the fact that he's got so much knowledge, you know, it comes off his mouth real quick. And and for me, I was able to, you know, understand what he's trying to say and actually do it. So I think, you know, Nate needed him, you know. The other day, he could have really helped. He could have really helped him because I didn't really understand what was happening if we were watching a basketball boxing match.
Nate Robinson, Jake Paul stepped into the ring, and I think I was. By the way, for people tuned in right now, make sure you go to Crackle and watch this incredible documentary. Incredible documentary, Lennox Lewis Untold Story. In it, I love seeing your background. I love understanding that your mother, God bless her, Violet, which she sacrificed in order to create a world for you where you could become a world champion, but even all the adversity that you faced as a kid. And one of the things that was threaded throughout it was your willingness to be open-minded to constructive feedback and criticism. And you always was a sponge for information, you know, which I thought was incredible. When you start working with Emmanuel Stewart, that was because he trained the boxer that beat you, right?
Yeah.
McCall. And then you took in all of that information. I remember you talking about the sweet science of boxing. And it was an interview that we're doing. It was talking about Mike Tyson and Mike. God bless Mike. First of all, salute to Mike Tyson. You know,
absolutely.
That's all of our brothers, right?
Yes.
And you talked about the sweet science of boxing compared to a street brawl, you know, and you're celebrated for the sweet science of boxing, being a master.
Yes. I'm a pugilist specialist.
Exactly. So is Floyd Mayweather.
Yes.
But Floyd Mayweather's entire career has been criticized for exercising the sweet science of boxing. Why do you think that is?
People didn't understand it. You know, when Muhammad Ali said hit and don't get hit, you know, he did it the best. And, you know, it's all about, like, for instance, when I first went into boxing, I thought it was like a game of tag. You know, it's me staying out of the way of him tagging me, and I might as well try and tag him before he tags me. And how many times can I tag him before he can tag me? So it was like a game of tag. So it really depends on how you look at it constructively. You know what I mean? It made it easy for me that way because I realized in this game, I don't like getting hit. So I have to learn the game properly. And another thing I have to learn about the game, you need to have good footwork. You need to move out of danger and into danger. So that's another thing that I needed to do. So I just wanted to get everything that I needed to help me be great in the sport. You know, is it throwing that jab more, listening to George Foreman commentate on me. He's saying, I'm not throwing the jab enough. I'm like, why is he saying that? So I'm looking at the fight. You know what? If he says throw the jab more, throw the jab more. So I looked at that kind of criticisms as good criticism because I wanted to learn why was the question, and I needed to know the answer.
Hey Lennox, question. I always wanted to know, growing up, you played a lot of different sports. You played organized sports, you played basketball, you played football, and then you got into boxing. What made you take on boxing as the discipline of boxing and say, hey, you know what, I want to put down I don't want to play football no more, I don't play basketball no more? Was it the anger as a kid building up and it was a way to let out your frustration? Or was it just like something that you just felt like it was like a game that you was playing, like, you know what, you can't hit me, you can't hit me?
It's kind of twofold. Part of the reason what got me into boxing was individual sport. You know, it's a physical sport, but it really all depending on you. You know, instead of going into a team sport where like two guys drop the ball or somebody misses a shot and then everybody else is suffering on the team, it solely depended on you. So that's what I liked about the individual sport of, you know, boxing.
All right, Lennox Lewis is with us, man. I wore this shirt, man. I was looking at the doc and I realized your mother and your wife bear the same name, and just, you know, they always.
Can you believe that?
I was like, we got two Violets. And what I loved about this too is a lot of times when you hear about a boxer's legacy or his career, you hear about the training camp and who are the trainers and who are the handlers and the management around them. But we don't really talk about the women. The women got to pat you back together after the fight. You know, when you piss in blood the next day, they got to stand, you know, next to you while you're training weeks before, and you kind of got to be separated from your family. They got to bear watching you get punched in the head and people trying to knock your block off. So in honor of the women in boxing who are behind the scenes, I wore this shirt for the violence, bro.
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
Can you speak to how important it is to have like a strong family foundation as a boxer? Because the sport in itself is it's violent, you know, in a sense, you know, and people have died in the ring. And, you know, no matter what you say, everybody's concerned when you step in the ring, whether you're a champ or not. Can you speak to that kind of support that the women of in your life have shown you throughout your career?
Let me tell you, my mother is supported me from day one in the sport, and you know, it was kind of horrifying for her when she seen my first fight, because it was actually against my friend, my good friend. So she came to the fight and she's watching me fight, and there's like blood all over the place. We're hitting each other. We're both bleeding, and then they announce a draw. And you know, obviously we shake hands, we walk out the ring, and my mom was horrified, like, "What are you doing? What's going on? Do you like doing this?" And you know, after a couple fights and realized that, okay, I'm pretty good at it, she became better at it, and she accepted it better. She grew in the sport like I grew in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, she's always been a support there. Even, you know, when the press is on you and putting you down, you always like, you know, that family support, that foundation to come and say, hey, don't worry about those guys. You know, you're doing a good job. And then that's all you need to keep you going straight. So yeah, great to have her. And even, you know, there's a lot of athletes out there. It's very important to, you know, have your family a part of it, in the sense that they got to know your sacrifice. They got to know when to leave you alone, and when you need to do this, and when you need to eat properly, when you need to rest properly. They're a part of the building process of you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Great. Hey, Lennox, I got a question.
Yeah.
You come across as a good guy. You well-mannered. Like you seem peaceful. But every boxer that you fought, like they hated you. Like it was something about, I don't know what it was. Why it was something about you that they just always felt that they had something personal. It wasn't about the belts. It wasn't about the money. I was like, yo, what were you doing to people behind the scenes? Like, were you doing something behind the scenes to irk them?
You know what? I think it was the fact that I was so confident in what I was doing. You know, you talk about having, you know, your mother in your life. I had great friends in my life. You know, schoolmates that I grew up with that, you know, I brought in onto my team. So these are the people that I trusted and I could depend on, and they were with me as well. So that was part of it. And then, you know, that gave me the confidence, and, you know, walking around being confident, saying that you're the best, and, you know, saying it with a straight face. People are not taking you too serious. They want to see proof of that. And I'm willing to prove it. You know what I mean? All you have to do is just tune in. And I think that was part of the reason. But you may have hated me then, but you'll love me now.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I'm like fine wine. I get better in time.
I like that. It's interesting to even to pivot off of what Horace was saying, because I remember Frank Bruno, British champion, and when y'all stepped into the ring, and it seemed like the fans were divided, but it seemed like more people were fans of his than yours, right? Overseas, across the pond. What was that about? Did they not see you as a true Brit because you grew up in Canada, or what was that about?
Yeah, that was the situation. You know, I was coming back, and I was boxing well, you got to look at, please, everybody that wants to know a bit about my history, and this documentary is an overview of it. So watch it. Yes. Untold Story, Lennox Lewis on Crackle. Yeah, but it's something that happened where, you know, I spent some time in Canada, and I'm going over there to turn pro, because in America, you got Don King, you got Tyson, you got Holyfield. It's kind of crowded over there. And the fact that I still had a British passport, I was born in England. And, you know, I basically came back and said, you know, looking at the professional aspect, Frank Bruno was the main guy. Gary Mason was the second guy over there. So at first, you know, Frank Bruno was saying, oh, he's Canadian, he's not British, you know, and kind of carrying on that narrative. And I just wanted to change it. And I realized that they were carrying on that narrative and trying to stay away from me as well. And I realized that, you know, he was the old and I was the new. So it was basically changing of the guards, and he didn't go nicely.
Bridgebizness.
Hey, hey, Lennox, when you became the undisputed heavyweight champion, when you fought Evander Holyfield for the, let's say for the second time, was that the most you ever put in training camp? Was that the best condition you ever been in, because you felt that you was robbed from the first fight so much that you had to come out and be like, yo, I got to pound this man because there's no way I'm gonna get robbed again? Was that the best shape that you felt like at the time that you ever been in, and you was more focused in that second fight with Evander Holyfield?
Let me tell you, you know, you're almost there, but the difference is I won the fight. Now I've got to go back to training camp and do the same thing. It was like, yo, I already did this. Now I got to do it again. So it's kind of difficult to kind of get myself back in the nick. I had to actually do different types of training to help me, you know, reach that point where I needed to step back in the ring. But it was, you know, I felt that actually Evander Holyfield boxed better the second fight. He didn't come in singing. And you know, he focused more on, you know, trying to get at me. But 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be the winner.
That uppercut.
I like that. Yeah. Except for in '94 against McCall.
Yeah.
Another robbery.
Well, you know, that was like.
He said he was good. He said he was good, and the ref was like, "Oh, fight is over." He got robbed for that fight.
Listen, the main thing about that, I was the champion.
Yeah.
I'm the champion. Okay, I knocked him down in the second round. It's not like he beat me up for 12 rounds, you know, and I got back up, but I wasn't allowed to continue.
What role do you think the promoter played in that decision?
Very big one. Very big one. I mean, I'm not going to hide around it. Yes, he played a role in it. Yes. You know, after the fight, what was Dyson Arden was actually coming out and watching him. He's sitting with the referee at one big table, smiling and said, "Hey, Lennox, hey, let's talk about the rematch."
We're talking about Don King for those who didn't know. And then the rematch happened, I want to say 3 years later, right?
Yes, 97.
The rematch happened in 97. This is what I wanted to ask you about too. I'm gonna pivot a little bit. You know, Lennox, when I was younger, like you, I didn't like getting hit in the face. You don't like getting hit. And I went to train. I used to run track, and the trainer asked me to come to the boxing ring because I was fast. And I went in the boxing ring, and I got hit a couple times by this little dude, man. I'll never forget, a little Mexican dude too, man. This dude was bam, boom, boom. He was killing me, right? And I remember after sparring with that kid, man, for about 2 or 3 days, you know, my head just, something didn't feel right? Everything, it wasn't all together. When I watched that rematch with McCall, it was obvious now, we probably wasn't on it then, that I feel like that man had mental issues in the ring. I feel like he probably had head trauma from years of boxing that probably affected it as well. I think a lot of boxers deal with that, and it's not really at the forefront because it's a stain on the sport. You're on the inside of the sport. How realistic, like what percentage of boxers have you seen that you can't really, you can only speculate, but how serious is mental illness, you think, in the sport of boxing?
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting because the old fighters, like such of my era, we kind of like, you know, if we have a problem, we kind of kept it to ourselves and we kind of carried on with it. You know, we kind of kept that to ourselves. Nowadays, it's like, you know, people, especially athletes, boxers that go through it, they find it's a lot easier. You know, they can come out with it. Tyson Fury said he was suffering from it. A couple other boxers said that, and I think it's good so that there's help out there, that they know there's help out there, and that other people are suffering from it, and they've recovered from it. But it's really how you really brought up. You know, there's boxers that are brought up, you know, they hurt their hand, and in a fight they'll just stop. And there's other fighters that hurt their hand, they'll put this one down and use the other one. You know what I mean? So it's really just your mindset, how you look at boxing, how you look at life.
Okay. Lennox Lewis is here, Bridgebizness.
Yep. Hey, Lennox, is Riddick Bowe a person that you wish that you could afford as a professional? Because that you wish that like he was a person that was like on your wish list, like I need this guy. I need him. I need him I need to knock him out.
Let me tell you, you didn't say, let me tell you, you know how bad I wanted him? I wanted him so bad. I'm like, I couldn't understand. A man beats you in the Olympics, right? And then you turn pro. To me, I thought he was a better pro than an amateur. He had a better pro style. And I had the amateur style, so I had to learn the pro style. So I thought we would actually meet once again, but didn't happen. One of those fights that in history didn't happen, should have happened. Didn't know why it didn't happen. I think it was just a situation where, you know, he was scared. His management was scared. Didn't want to face me. I don't blame them because I was out for him. Yeah, I think it's a disappointment to the fans too. You know what? You know, in my area, there has to be like a couple guys that is going to give me good competition, and we're going to have a history. The history is the Olympics, of course. Oh, we had a great fight in the history. What's going to happen in the pros? The saga continues, but it never continued. But good question. You know, not too many people ask me about that, but you know, I'm glad that you did.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Management. You seem like a boxer. I mean, as far as what you did, you're a boxer. You're a heavyweight champion. Don King was reigned supreme at that time in your era. To me, you were built on loyalty instead of riches. Because it seemed like, you know, I know they threw gifts at you. I heard people like, yo, come over here. You belong over here with me, Lennox. Come over here. They brought you to America. They were like, yo, you're going to be big in America. You was doing FUBU. You had clothing and everything. I mean, what's so big about loyalty is bigger than money in your life?
Yeah, loyalty over money. That's very important. I mean, you know, like you said, it comes from a strong family background. You know, my mother used to tell me the right things. She used to say, son, you can only drive one car at a time. So why would you need 10? You know, simple things like that. And, you know, that weighed in my head. Even the fact of when do I know when to retire? Well, you know, people used to ask me, who's my hero? I said, you know, Muhammad Ali's my hero. He's the one that got me into boxing. I love watching him. And they would say, yeah, but didn't you think he carried on too long? So throughout my whole career, people said, didn't you think he carried on too long? So I wanted to retire on top. I wanted to do something that nobody else did. Only actually 3 people did, and me including.
And that was in 2003, right? Or 2004. What year did you retire?
4.
2004, but you fought Vitaly Klitschko.
Yes.
That was your last professional fight?
Actually, it was Tyson.
Oh, Tyson was, okay, you're right. Tyson was your last professional fight.
Yes.
But when you fought Vitaly Klitschko, I want to go back to that.
Yes.
That was a straight up barbaric war happening with Vitaly and you. And you ended up stopping him because you busted up his eye the whole 9. But he was really dancing with you really well. What was it like fighting him?
Sorry, he was my last fight. What was it like fighting him? All right, imagine this. Fighting guys that are always shorter than you. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're looking for sparring to fight a guy that really was prepared to fight you. There was nobody around at that size. Can I find a 6'7" guy around? No. So I had to find somebody. I found a 6'6" guy. Didn't have the same style, but it gave me a chance to see what it was like with a big guy. And fought him. Great fighter. He kind of took me a while to warm up to him because he was doing something that somebody never did to me, and that was you know, throw a jab, and then all of a sudden it'd be back over here, and it's like by the time I threw a jab, it's like I'm not there already. So I had to throw like a triple jab just to get in. And then even when I hurt him, the guy weighed so much, he clumped on me. So I had to kind of pick him up and kind of, throw him off of me to throw some punches. And I wasn't prepared for the lifting part and trying to throw punches. That really took a lot of energy out of me. So if we would have fought again, it would have been a different fight. But I thought at my worst, I still beat him at my best.
At my worst, I still beat him at my best. I like that. He was tagging you though, Lennox. He was, it took you a while, and then you finally stopped him.
I mean, let me tell you, the people forget the fight is not a 5-round fight. He was winning the first 4 rounds. Then I took him in the deep end. I can swim good.
Yeah, that's that Jamaican blood in you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, but Lennox, since we got there, we on a topic. Let's get right to it. Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis. That night, that fight, that build-up for that, I think that was actually the first fight I ever seen security in the middle of the ring. Like I was like, I can't wait to round one. That I need you to take me there, man, because it seemed, after the fight, you know what it was? After you won, you beat Mike, and I seen Mike talking to you and say, I love you, Lennox, and we're friends, and I couldn't believe. After the end guy scene, you got to take me to that, Lennox, man.
Hey, let me tell you, it's been a build-up for years. I didn't even know if this fight was actually going to come about. After Mike came out of his incarceration, he was supposed to fight me, but he elected to fight Evander Holyfield. Then the Evander Holyfield took an air problem arose, and then I said, "Wow, is this fight ever going to happen?" But we finally got the fight to happen. It happened. I wanted it to happen because there was going to be that argument when you're getting your hair cut. Oh, Mike Tyson's the best. Oh, he's a villain. He'll eat him. He'll do this. Holyfield's the best. Lewis is the best. So, it's that constant argument. And I wanted to solve it in my era. I wanted them to know who the best was.
Yeah. Was it bothering knowing that y'all have a good relationship to see him act out like that and try to get underneath your skin, saying the things he was saying, because you knew Mike. I mean, come on. I mean, you guys knew before the cars and the money, the fame, and all that. So to see him up there and talk to you like that and say what he wanted to do with you, was that more motivation for you? Like, I should have been beat you, but I'm gonna really beat you bad.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't understand why he was being like that because he was acting like a bad man, and he was a bad man at the time, but I'm a badder man. I just don't say it.
Bad man move in silence.
Okay.
Yes.
But let's keep talking about that fight, man. Hey, man, when Mike came out, when he did his ring walk to DMX, what they really want, when that when you heard that, man, does that did that get under your skin? Did that get to your head? Like, damn, this shit sound hype.
Listen, that music was hard. He came out to the hard music. Like, please, if I had the chance, I would have came out to DMX too. But, everybody has certain music that really motivates them, that gets them moving, that actually does something for their psyche. So, you seen the documentary, you seen what I was in the change room doing. I was Capleton, high energy, high energy. Yeah. And the ring walk is, the calmness. Yeah, I'm strolling. Ain't no rush. I'll be there.
How different was Mike? Because I love when they, in the documentary, when you watch it, when people, those tuned in, when you watch it, you're going to see a lot of old footage of Custom Model, your trainer, Mike Tyson. You were 15 when you first sparred Mike Tyson, and you guys were teenagers. And I remember in the doc, it talked about the first round that y'all sparred in, Mike kind of beat you up. And then your trainer was like, yeah, everything's cool, man. We could pull out. And you were like, nah, I know what to do now.
Yeah.
And you figured them out. And they said the second round that you start beating up on Mike, and they stopped you guys and was like, you guys are going to have to fight one day, chill out. What was it that you figured out in that second round then when you guys were teenagers? And was it any different when you guys fought as professionals? Did the same principles work for you?
Interesting, and that's a great question. Well, what really happened was, Mike was party to some great footage, some old time fights, and some, I forgot who had it. One of his managers had a whole bunch of old time fights, and I remember Mike was telling me about all these names of these old time fighters, and I didn't even know them. My boxing knowledge wasn't as good as his was. So he brought me up into his room and he hanged up a sheet and we would watch all these fights. And then we watched some old time heavyweight fights where what Muhammad Ali would move around Joe Frazier or something like that. And my trainer said, this is how you have to fight him. So I said, okay, this is what I have to do. And, I'm a quick learn, quick study. This is what I did the second, actually, it was the second day, not the second round.
The second day.
Hey, Lennox, let me ask you this question. Is that where you got the uppercut from? Because your uppercut, you just mastered the uppercut. Is that where you got the uppercut from?
Yeah. I mean, you want to be able to master your punches. And first, my first punch that I had to master was the jab, and then the right hand, then the hook, then the uppercut. So the uppercut came late, but it was there.
It was.
Okay, so it was the same thing. The other thing I noticed you did in the fight with Mike is you put your weight on him.
Yes.
You would punch him and just, man, I was getting mad at you, Lennox. I ain't gonna lie, man. I was like, yo, get off his back.
Yeah. No, let me tell you, Mike is strong. You seen Roy was holding him the other day, and then like Roy's holding a heavyweight. When Mike makes 3 moves like that, you know what's coming. He's not coming with no weak move. Mm-hmm. And I seen in the fight, he did that a couple of times. I'm like, whoa, So Roy was holding him a little bit, and they were doing the waltz a little bit, but he had to hold him because, he's in there with a heavyweight, strong guy, Mike Tyson.
Hey, Lennox, just one more question with me. Being a fan of boxing and you being the boxing champ that you are, I always had a problem with the judges and where the judges sit. I always felt like the judges should sit up like in tennis, like they should look at the fight like in a higher, instead of looking at it from where they
are. Are you saying they don't have the best seat in the house?
They don't have the best seat in the house. But I'm saying I just felt like, to me, I always feel like when it's judges that's in this right here, I feel like judges should be higher, looking at the fight from a different range. And I feel like, you being a boxing guy, do you feel the same, like the angles that they have, that you always got robbed because of, I mean, there's so many different reasons you could say it, but half of them wasn't fighters. And I don't know what fight they look at and they get these numbers that they come up with, but I think that if they were a little elevated, they'd see a better fight, a better vision. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good idea. I think, always when you can get a better advantage of a look, it's more information for you to decipher. And it's better when you get a proper look. I mean, look at camera angles on football games in the past. Now look at them today.
Yes.
So I've seen that improve. So boxing and where the judges fit would be an improvement. A lot of the problem with the judging is, remember, you got 4 judges. So if a guy's over here punching you this way and he's missing, but you're moving your head backwards, to this judge behind you, it looks like you're getting hit. So, I understand some of the problems judges have.
Okay, man. I want to talk about, first of all, my respect and props again. This documentary, you really, really encapsulated your legacy in a really great way, it helped. And I dare say, man, you might have been, I don't know if you were the first, but of your era, you were the Renaissance boxer of your era,
Thank you.
You broke all stereotypes, that boxers had at that time. The things that you were into, you were very worldly, you were on the big screen, you do a lot of charity, and you were awarded the CBE by the Queen of England. Come on, man. Like, where does that compare to a gold medal or a world championship when you're being awarded something by royalty?
Wow, man. You know, I accepted it. I mean, not too often do you get anything from royalty like that, and it was a great honor. And you know, I brought my mom with me to the castle, and I was in a three-piece with a bow tie and everything. So yeah, that was a tremendous day. And you know, I look forward to you know, doing a lot more. I mean, I wasn't really thinking of, oh, great, look at what I got. I was thinking of like, hey, it's such an honor. Thank you. You know, let me do more.
But what were they like though, man? Like in person, like what were the royals like?
Oh, very nice, very nice. The queen. You know, when you meet the queen, you have to go, Your Majesty. You know, and then the second one is Mom, and I think there's a third one. I don't remember it, but everything's really official. But I like the way that you know, she walked to the room. You kind of have to bow a little bit, you know, just to show a little bit of respect. And she kind of looked up at me and she goes, "You're a big boy, aren't you?" So I was like, you know, she talked to me. She said I was a big boy. I felt good, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, she would have said that in America, we might have rebutted that. We don't like that boy word out here.
Oh yeah, no, I knew the content she meant it in though.
Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
After meeting Nelson Mandela, how was that much a life changing experience for you? Because I know after meeting him and seeing the aura of him, I know it made a big part of your life. Look at life a whole lot different after meeting and talking to him. How was that?
Let me tell you, when he was incarcerated for how many years, you know, everybody was fighting the fight with him, you know, and I was thinking, wow, such a man, you know, he's basically sacrificed so many years of his life, and he's come out and he's forgiven his captives. I'm like, wow, this man is incredible. I got to meet this man, you know, and then he's a boxing fan, which is even a bigger bonus. So, you know, for me, it was important for me to box in Africa. You know, Muhammad Ali boxed in Africa, so I had to box in Africa. It didn't end up the way I wanted it to end up for me, but I came back and you know, fixed it. But I couldn't. There's a couple things I had to do when I was in Africa, and that's to see the big five. I had to see the big five. That's the elephant, the lion, the hyena, and you know, a couple others.
Yeah.
And the other thing was to see Mandela and to see where they kept him. So I made sure to go visit those places, see where he lived, and you know, it was important for me. I think it's important for a lot of people to actually travel and see the different sides and how people live different places.
I actually got a chance to go out to South Africa. I went to the prison too and took pictures in the cell that Mandela that they kept Mandela in. And I understand that question, Horace. Like it really transcends you after you had that experience and you kind of go back home, so to speak, right, Lennox? You walk, right?
Yeah. I mean, Africa has so much to offer, and you know, it's interesting just to know the history, just the stories and the history, knowing the food and where it comes from, and you know, there's a lot of knowledge out there that needs to be given. And Sway, you do that on your show, man, and on this show as well. I love what you're doing, and I wish you can say, you know, what's bigger than a citizen? What's bigger than a citizen, my brother?
Yo, wait a minute, hold up.
Come on.
Hold up. Lennox, you a citizen of Sway in the morning?
Yeah.
Wow.
So then you know Horace's wife is Heather B.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Now I know. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. And then Mike Muse, who's a member of our show and does our political news segment, told me that he spoke with you last week. Yes. And then your wife Violet is a big fan of what Mike Muse does on the show as well.
Yes, she is.
Yo.
Yes, she is.
Of course, we large now, kid. Lennox is citizen.
Oh, champ.
Oh, man. Stop, man. Hey,
man, you gotta say Heather B, bro. You gotta say Heather B.
Oh,
Heather B. hey, yeah. I wish Heather was right there, man. That's dope.
Yeah.
Hey, Lennox, check this out. First of all, I could retire. But secondly, Andre Ward has become my favorite boxing commentator.
Oh, he's great. He's great.
Oh man, I love Andre Ward, man. I love how he breaks down the science. He's a natural at it. Who was yours while you were fighting? Who was your favorite boxing commentator?
Oh, let me tell you, I started with Howard Cosell.
Okay.
I loved Howard Cosell because Howard Cosell commentated on me one time in the Olympics when me and Tyson were in the Olympics, and he used a word that I like. What did he mean? What did he mean? He said Lennox Lewis is unheralded. I'm like, unheralded? What does that mean? So I love the fact that he used a word that nobody knows what it meant, and when you found out what it was, you would say, "Wow, the guy's incredible." So he was definitely the first one.
He was the first one.
Yeah.
Hey, and him and Muhammad Ali they were such a great tandem. I think they together were great for boxing because they were great marketing agents. They were great branding agents for boxing. That whole thing that they did. And I know Muhammad Ali was your first boxing hero. The first book report I ever did as a kid in elementary was a book report about Muhammad Ali. So he was my hero too.
Oh,
Man,
good.
Can you speak to the time that you spent with him? Did he say anything special to you?
Yes, he did. I remember one time he came to Toronto, and I remember Holyfield was up there, and I was up there, and we were doing something for the Toronto Argonauts. And, he said, "Come on over here, come sit beside me." So I came and sat beside him, and then a news reporter, called me over and said, let's do an interview over there. So I went out to do an interview over there, and I did the interview. Then I was going back to my chair. Evander Holyfield was in my chair. So I was like, man, he's right beside Muhammad Ali. That's where I'm supposed to be. So I told the reporter, go get Evander Holyfield. So the reporter went to go get Evander Holyfield. Then I got my chair back. And then that was that little thing. But then, Muhammad whispered in my ear, he goes, "I used to be heavyweight champion. I used to be the greatest. But you're the greatest." I'm like, "No, Muhammad, you'll always be the greatest." So, that was my last time. And then, what I love about Muhammad Ali is the fact that, he's got Parkinson's, and, this is a disease that he could, stay at home and doesn't really have to give of himself, but he still gives of himself. He still cares about the kids. He still cares about people. And, great man. This is what I love about him.
Wow, Lennox Lewis. The other thing I thought was great in the documentary is the story of Frank Maloney, now known as Kelly, right? And had a gender reassignment procedure. And at the time that this was happening, a lot of us were ignorant to even know how to react or what that even meant, what that process is all about, and what people who go through it, what they go through. When that happened, can you tell me what was your mind state when this was happening? I'm sure it was new to you. But go ahead.
Yeah, my mind state was like, this is new. I didn't really understand it at first. Obviously I got educated on it, and at the end of the day, if it's affecting somebody's psyche where they feel they need to commit suicide or something like that, I say life is always the best way to choose. And I said that that's what you want to do. I couldn't understand it at the age of 50. This is what he wants to do, but he did it, and he's living his life, and there's nothing I can do about it, or I shouldn't say anything about it.
No, but the thing you did do, and was very important, being the champion that you are in and out of the ring, is you set the tone. And the people around you who are equally as probably confused or didn't really know how to cope or deal with it. It wasn't really your problem or their issue to deal with. It was his decision in his life. And by you saying that, you helped them, come to grips with it, and you know what I mean? And
yeah. Yeah, a lot of people help me come to grips with a lot of different understandings on life. It's like, okay, I understand now, thanks for educating me. And that's like I said, part of the problem. People don't have the right education in the sense of the knowledge given to them. If it's confusing, then nobody knows what to believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just went through that with our our political.
No, I know. I know.
we just went there with our president, so all the politics here in this space.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on now. I don't know. I'm confused.
A lot of lawsuits, but life goes on in the process, and democracy marches on as well. So we will, I think, January 20th, if I'm not mistaken, is the inauguration. January is the inauguration, and that's what's going to happen, right?
Well, let me tell you, this is interesting because, a lot of new things happen in politics every time we have an election, and this is something new.
It's something new, unprecedented, as Mike Muse would say. Unprecedented.
Yes.
Horace, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the state of the heavyweight boxing division now, with all this cheating going on and people accusing people of this? Was that going on back in the 90s? Was guys like secretly cheating, you think, and doing type of things that, they probably got away with? You'd be like, hey, man, a lot of this been going on for years, and now it's starting to come to the light. What do you think about the heavyweight division now in boxing and people, doing that?
It's interesting, you say that. There's been a lot of rumors flying around when I was boxing. The main thing I worried about was myself. I didn't care about anybody else because for me, those type of things can't really help you. It really doesn't help this. A good punch on this, doesn't matter what's in your body, you're gonna go down. So I really was concerned about myself. The only thing I was concerned about was the health risk that people want to put themselves in. Why you want to do that to yourself? Why would you want to take that to harm yourself? So that was the only thing that I really said that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
So you think any of these heavyweights today, Fury, you think they could have danced back with y'all back in the days of the 90s?
Well, I would have to say no, and I have to say that, and I also say I don't like crossing eras, but I did. I was supposed, Tyson was my main foe in my era, and after that fight, I should have really retired. But I touched the other era, which is the Klitschko brothers. I boxed one in Ocean's 11, the other one for real. So I boxed, you could say I had one for dinner and one for lunch.
Oh, wow.
And let me tell you, they're good guys. They're great friends of mine. So, we always joke like this.
Oh, I love those guys, man.
Yeah.
But, you talk about Ocean's 11. That was at the time when you was at the apex of your visibility, your popularity, your celebrity, probably the money, the purses, so on and so forth. So you hanging out with George Clooney and you got a fight with Rockman that was on the way, and then you end up losing that fight. And you admitted, that you would have done it different. You did it differently the second time around. But when Rockman, when he hit you, even in the documentary, you just hear a ring noise. Yo,
well, you've never been hit like that before?
No, that's why I've never been knocked down.
Now you know what it feels like. It's that long tone, and things are going slow, and then it speeds up when you speed up.
So are you kind of like in a conscious state of mind, but you have no control over your physical? You're just waiting for everything to gather. Like, what is that?
That's it. It's like, everything's happening slow, and you're like moving, like, what's going on, until you hear that crunch, and then the crowd starts cheering, and then everything going slow. It's hard to really put into like a film, but that's the way it feels. And it's like when you feel it for the first time, then you'll understand. Oh, this is what they're talking about. I actually went through it.
Yeah, I don't plan on feeling that. I'm good.
Good.
Hey, so this is Bridgebizness, and one of the things I've always admired about you. You never really had a whole lot of controversy that was following you outside of the ring. And I know you got your honorary doctorate degree, and you do a lot of charity. And you work with Muhammad Ali, the foundation, and at one point, I don't want to get in your pockets, but it's, you can look it up. At one point, they said your net worth was about 140 million, right? You can't just get there and sustain that from boxing. I would love for you to share what kind of business ventures that you learned about along the way that prevented you from becoming the stereotype of the cliche boxer that leaves the sport and has no money. What kind of business ventures did you do that were profitable for you?
Real estate. I learned that early, playing Monopoly. Come on now.
Yeah.
Monopoly got me prepared for that. So I knew, when you box, you got to put some money away. And that was me putting money away. I would just put some money into real estate and watch it appreciate.
So real estate.
There's other business ventures that obviously I've invested in, but, they're small investments. I wasn't really a businessman per se. My main focus was really just sports, becoming the best, and when it came to business, a lot of people used to come at me with all kinds of different business ventures, and I would say to myself, give it to me, give it to my lawyer, make my lawyer look at it. If he says something's wrong with it, something's wrong with it, because I like to go by the book. When I'm forced to sit there to listen to somebody, every story sounds good to me, but it really comes down to the small print. Yeah. Okay, this percentage. Oh, this. It's the small print I'm really concerned about.
Is this something that got away from you that you feel like, damn, I should have invested in that? Is there something that you feel like?
Oh yeah, there's a couple stocks out there, and there's a couple stocks that really blew up. Obviously, if I would have known, if I could go back in time, Amazon would obviously be one of them.
Wow.
Yeah, when you think about what you could have invested in, and you watch it grow, and you can't believe how much it grew. You look back and say, I wish I would have invested it. Yes, absolutely.
What do you think it would take? Like, I'm a big Floyd Mayweather fan, if it isn't obvious. Yeah, because his business sentiment has ranked, that's been as big as his boxing career. His what he does in the ring, what he does out of the ring are equally as amazing to me. But the business of boxing needs to be cleaned up. When I hear you say, I can't think of who you were talking, maybe Jon Stewart or somebody, and you talked about how you fought Holyfield and he got 15 million, you got 10 million, and Don King got the same amount of money as you, and he never even stepped into the ring. In your opinion now, what would it take to clean up the business of boxing where the boxers are being paid and making as much money equally as everyone else?
I think it's just really education on the sport, and what is even the boxers that are coming along nowadays, they're really getting a better education on the life of a businessman, realizing that boxing can be a proper business if you surround yourself with the right people. And the right people is obviously a good lawyer and a good accountant, and obviously a good, strong family value aspect around you. Like, that saying, you can only drive one car at a time. If you're out buying 10 different cars, that's not good business etiquette. You're losing because you can only drive one car at a time. So, these things, doing good habits, good business habits. I've learned a lot of good business habits from my business friends, watching them, listening to them talk, and realizing, oh, this guy knows great math. Knowing good math is very important in business. Yes. Because, I've got friends that they can work a business deal and figure out how much money they get, and the only thing they're doing is just putting the two people together. Connect. So to have that attribute is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, man. Hey, I love this, man. Man, I can't tell you. I can't thank you enough, Lennox, for joining us tonight, bro.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I respect everything you've done with your career, how you carried yourself throughout your career, and what you do now. And please tell your lovely wife, Violet, we said thank you for supporting the show. And
I will.
Salute to your kids. Your son is going to start boxing?
He's a boxer already. He's been to all my camps.
He's nice? What do you like?
Yeah, he's like me.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's like me.
Yes.
Right. Would you train him if push came to shove?
Oh yeah, I would. You know, I asked George Foreman that would he train his kids. He said he doesn't want them to box. So
okay. Lennox Lewis, man. Lennox Lewis, man. An untold story. Thank you, man. Welcome to Bridgebizness, baby.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You know you're a citizen.